Hey biology, this is Mr. Hausman. So let's think about where we've been in the course of this year, thinking about understanding how cells, the key building block of all living organisms, how do they get the information that makes them alive and makes each cell unique? Well, we've already talked about how DNA is the information storage molecule, but if you kind of remember in our unit on DNA, which was chapter 12, yes, it seems like we're going backwards, but what we're going to focus on today is what happens when a cell copies its DNA, and we talked about how if it had too many copies, that could be very dangerous. So what that leads to is cells are constantly growing and dividing. And the first way we're going to examine that, and some people have said they've heard this word in past science classes, is one of those cell division processes is mitosis. So let's begin on our journey. So you know or take for granted that everything, right, all living organisms are based on cells. Okay? Cells are the building block or the structural unit, and you're made of trillions of them, 30, 40, 50 trillion cells make up a typical human body, not this infant, but maybe an adult human. And each of those cells, there's many classes. They're brain cells, fat cells to store energy, muscle cells in the heart, which are, of course, slightly different than the muscle cells that make up your biceps and your quadriceps and other what are called skeletal muscles. And then don't forget about the cells that don't even stay in one place. What about red blood cells that carry oxygen? So all of these cells are a little bit different, and yet our DNA has to include, right? Our DNA includes the instruction for making all of these. Okay? In fact, every single cell in your body has the full, complete instruction set for making each one. So the first thing we're going to examine is how do we make more cells, or why do we make cells? So you started off, as did many organisms that are multicellular, as a single fertilized cell, a combination of an egg and a sperm. This is you at day one, okay? And fertilization is how many animals reproduce. It's even how plants reproduce, right? We might call different words, but egg and sperm fuse to form a single cell. Well, given some time, you turn into whoever you become. Whether you're like this person, or you're like me, or you're like yourself, right? You're turning into something that has 40 trillion cells. So what changed? Well, you made more cells. So cell division is the answer, right? We need to take one cell, take this cell, and turn it into two, or take this cell and turn it into two. We've captured one of the cells in the midst of the process. You can see that the cells seem to be connected because maybe they're finishing the process of cell division. Okay, so why does a cell need to make more copies and ultimately divide? Well, the key idea here is that cells have to stay small. So why do they have to stay so small? The answer is because when you're small, it is easy to get materials to go in and out of a cell. So if a cell just kept growing in size, one way to become a bigger organism is to just make your cells grow. But if your cell was to increase in size, what if your cell was like this big, twice as large as it's supposed to be? Well, it has more demand for food, it needs more oxygen, it needs more water, and it's producing more waste. So that's actually a problem because you would need more of everything. The other thing you need, why you need to keep your cell small, is because of the exchange of food and waste. So when you are a smaller organism or a smaller celled organism, it is easier to do, right, diffusion and osmosis. Things get in and out. Think about how far it is to get from the membrane to the nucleus. See how that's a very short distance? But if a cell is much larger and the nucleus stays the same side, what do you notice? That if you're a molecule and you're trying to diffuse into the nucleus, look how far you have to go. And so it's kind of like you'd have to have much more complex cellular structures to handle that. So this is what cells don't do. They do not form larger cells. What they do is they form many, many small cells. So why do cells need to divide? Because they need to exchange materials from the outside of the cell to the inside of the cell. What goes in? Oxygen goes in, food or nutrients go in, and water goes in. And what goes out? Various waste products and CO2. We've already talked about that waste. Okay, so small versus large cells. Look at those two dogs, you know, maybe the Great Dane and the Chihuahua. So who has bigger cells? The answer is they both have exactly the same size cell, right? They have tiny cells, he has tiny cells, they all have tiny cells, they just have more of them. So again, here's that same example, take the same cell and blow it up larger, and look how hard it is, right, to get material into the nucleus, or even to get material out of the Golgi apparatus. We're going to take a look at what this is called. This is referred to as the surface area to volume challenge. Why do cells not grow large? Well, the rate at which materials move in and out is dependent on the surface area. So when you grow larger in size, you know what surface area is? It's all of this material, right? All of this area. This side is surface area, this side is surface area, even this side, right? There's how many sides to a cube? There's 6 sides. And this surface area does not increase at the same rate as the volume. So when you compare the surface area, we're going to abbreviate that surface area to volume, there is a sweet spot, so to speak. And when you are just the right size or kind of intermediate size, like this middle cell, you have the perfect ratio of surface area to volume. Okay, if you get too small, then also there's another problem, is that you don't have enough volume. These cells have not enough surface area. But think of it as the Goldilocks phenomenon. A cell will always optimize itself to be just the right size so that it has the right amount of surface area divided by the volume of the cell. Now, is it typical that we do calculations for these? Not really, nor are cells exactly cubes like this, but we're going to approximate them. Okay? We'll see a video in class about how this works. So, large cells have small surface area, large volume. Small cells have large surface area, but small volume, not enough material. So this is kind of the main idea that we just discussed. We're going to be watching this video in class, so you don't need to use it today, but we're going to keep going. So why are cells so small? It's the surface area to volume ratio challenge. You want to be just the right size. Okay, what's another reason? I want you to add this into your notes. You'll notice that there's not room for this, but I want you to add, there's another reason why cells don't grow significantly larger in size, and that is because their DNA, the instructions, would have to pump out far more proteins, and your cell is just not optimized to make all of those instructions from the DNA. So your DNA would constantly be making more and more protein. So we're going to just say that the DNA would have to work harder. We haven't studied how DNA makes proteins yet, after all. Okay, let's go to 10.2, cell division. So, right, here's an example of a starting cell. This is you as a single-celled organism. And you're noticing that your cell is growing larger in size because maybe, and they do change their size a little bit. Maybe they bring more water in and it makes the cell grow a little bit larger. But what we happen to have is we have this mechanism. Your cell has the capability, when it gets too large, to separate the chromosomes and make two cells from one. Okay, so before you ever do any cell division, there is a parent cell. Now, parent cell doesn't mean from like a mom or a dad. It just means the starting cell. And we've already talked about how there is a process that has to happen first called DNA replication. And what you get is no matter how many chromosomes you have, which is referred to as N, you're now going to have twice that number. N stands for the number of chromosomes. We'll talk about that in another unit, but now you have twice as many. And that DNA replication happens first, before we make the cells divide into identical daughters. Okay, so remember this word chromosome? It's this idea that DNA is often, not always, is often bundled up very tight and into this kind of X shape. You'll see chromosomes, with the DNA all coiled up, and you'll see them drawn like this with kind of like an X shape. And we'll talk about why there's that dot in the middle. But chromosomes, right? This is a chromosome and its identical copy, and you have to pass on those chromosomes to your offspring. That's how humans do it, right? And so we first have to, one of the key first steps is we have to make chromosomes. We have to condense our DNA by coiling it up around those histones in order to get ready for the process of cell division. So the DNA is replicated first, and then it coils up. So do you see now why this is the original chromosome, and here is its copy, but they're attached together? That's interesting. They have the ability to stick to each other so that they don't get lost. It keeps them organized. Okay? And they are, as we just said, they're identical. And they're referred to as sisters. Remember, those are the offspring. And the name for a chromosome, and the abbreviation for chromosome is C-some, and its identical copy, well, these are referred to as chromatids, or sister chromatid pairs. And a chromatid is just a chromosome. Let me actually clean that up. Sorry, there it goes. Right, let's use green, is a chromosome and its identical copy. So doesn't it make sense that we studied DNA replication first? Here's a chromosome, right? Here's a single chromosome, and then it makes a copy, but they stay attached, okay? Will they always stay attached? No, but they are going to stay attached up until we talk about cell division. But they're eventually going to go one to each end of a cell, and so each copy gets one copy of each chromosome. Okay? So which cell is will go through cell division? So what you notice here, right, is that cell 1 is growing larger, and it has already decided, right, to kind of go through a division step and to make two, right, here's the two identical, right, daughter cells. What does a cell have to do before going through cell division? And that's actually an idea that we already talked about last chapter, DNA replication. replication. You first have to copy the DNA. So, right, this chromosome makes an identical copy. We're going to keep them attached in the middle. So DNA replication always happens before the cell divides. Okay? We're going to finish with the cell cycle. So there is a pattern to all of these steps. We've been alluding to the steps of getting ready, DNA replication, and the cell dividing. But all of this happens over the course of a process which is very tightly regulated by our cells. There's a preparation step, there's a DNA replication step, and then there's a division step. And the cell cycle, the entire cycle, think of it like a clock, has 3 major phases. One of them is called interphase. Interphase is kind of the in-between mitosis stages. Some people used to call it resting, and that is the last thing that's true. The cell is active. The cell is active, it's making proteins, it's doing all of the things that it loves to do. I think that word protein fell off the screen. The second major step of the cell cycle is this word that we've heard called mitosis. Mitosis is the actual nuclear changes that are going to allow the chromosomes to move from one end of a cell to another. And the final stage of the cell cycle is the cytoplasm, or the cell basically pinching off, splitting the cytoplasm, and so you get 2 new cells, right? So each cell gets a nucleus, but the third stage is called cytokinesis. It means cytoplasm movement. Okay? So if you were to visualize the cell cycle, right, we have all of this phase. This is kind of interesting. From here all the way to here. And we'll talk about these individual stages, but from here at around 10 o'clock all the way around, all of these are interphase. And you're like, then why do they have special names? We will talk a little bit about those names. Then there's mitosis, and mitosis is actually short and quick. Mitosis is kind of about, a quarter of the circle. And then the shortest phase of all is this tiny little cytokinesis step. And if you were to try to capture this under a microscope, because you can actually see living cells doing this, cytokinesis is almost like a pop. The cell just splits and becomes 2 separate cells, and then the cell continues on back into interphase. So it really is a cycle of interphase, mitosis, followed by cytokinesis.